Watch it, old man. This isn't a fishing pond. That's what the sleek-haired, champagne-holding yacht owner barked as a weather-beaten boat brushed lightly against his luxurious vessel. The scrape was barely audible, a gentle kiss of old wood against new polish, yet it sparked a storm. People on the dock turned at the commotion. Some chuckled, others lifted their phones, drawn to drama like moths to a flame. But then, something unexpected happened. The old man, stooped, silent, weathered like driftwood from 1,000 storms, simply saluted the water, not the yacht, not the crowd, not the man who'd just humiliated him, the water. And as if summoned by that solemn gesture, a sound broke through the fog, a deep, haunting horn. Moments later, a Navy ship emerged from the mist. Laughter died in an instant. Phones stopped recording. All that remained was silence, thick, heavy, reverent. His name was Hank Dalton, 74th, retired Navy Chief Petty Officer. And though his frame had withered with time, his spirit still stood tall. Hank lived aboard a small, sea-worn boat docked near a modern marina, a vessel he had lovingly restored with his own hands. To most, it looked like a relic, a wooden tub too proud to sink. But to Hank it was sacred ground. Every bolt, every plank, a memory. It wasn't just a boat. It was his home, his monument, his church on the water. Every morning, without fail, Hank motored slowly into the harbor. He'd raise the American flag with the same reverence as a color guard. Not to draw attention, not to fish, but to be near the spirits of those he'd once sailed with. Brothers who hadn't come home. The motion of the waves reminded him of distant shores, rough deployments, and quiet acts of bravery that never made headlines. They reminded him that once he was part of something bigger. But on that morning, the tides were stronger than usual. He had warned younger boaters about the current before, how it could push the unsuspecting. And sure enough, it nudged his modest craft just enough to graze a pristine white yacht nearby. Barely a scratch. Paint on paint. But the man on the yacht reacted like he'd been shot. "You blind? Or just broke, old man?" The yacht owner sneered, sipping from his glass as if his words weren't venom. "Do you even know how much this boat costs?" Laughter erupted from the deck. A woman in a bikini tossed her head and said loudly, "Guess he drifted in from a retirement home." Hank said nothing. With hands that had once pulled men from burning waters, he calmly tied his lines to the dock, his fingers forming perfect knots like muscle memory from another lifetime. His silence was louder than their jeers. Another man from the yacht lifted his phone and began recording. "And here we have the USS Grandpa," he joked, "attacking the fleet of the wealthy." The dock manager soon approached, clipboard in hand, already irritated. "Sir, we've received complaints," he said, not even making eye contact. "This dock is meant for modern registered vessels, not, well, that." Hank looked at him evenly. "Been registered since 1972, he said. "Same slip, 40 years. The manager smirked, glancing toward the yacht for approval. "Well, maybe it's time to reconsider. Regulations change." Someone nearby muttered, "Just scrap that thing already. What an eyesore." Hank paused. He turned slowly and saluted the flag at the stern of his boat, with military precision. Then he sat down alone on a nearby bench, his back straight, shoulders square, surrounded not by people, but by ghosts. Memories deeper than the water around him. As the yacht party resumed, music blaring, laughter echoing, Hank sat in silence. For them, it was another carefree day. For him, it was another reminder. The world had moved on, and it hadn't looked back. Two elderly fishermen nearby exchanged glances. They recognized the insignia on Hank's cap, but they said nothing. Respect, after all, had become rare currency. The yacht owner continued his mockery. "He nearly rammed us. Look at the mark. This wreck shouldn't even be in the water." A small crowd gathered. Some smirked. Some watched with uneasy silence. One young marina worker snapped a photo of Hank's boat. "This is gonna go viral," he laughed. "Battle of the Barnacle Boat." But Hank, still silent. No anger, no shame. He didn't need to defend himself. He had nothing to prove to people who'd never been tested. Instead, he pulled out a small wooden box from his coat. Inside was a worn but polished Navy chief's badge and a folded letter signed by a former admiral. He read it slowly, fingers tracing each word. Not for validation, for grounding, for memory. A boy, no more than 8, wandered over. "Mister," he asked, "were you really in the Navy?" "My grandpa was too." Hank smiled faintly. "Long time ago, son." The boy beamed. "Did you fight in a war?" "More than one," Hank said softly. The boy's mother hurried over, pulling him back. "Don't bother the man," she said, eyeing Hank's boat with quiet disdain, but the boy waved as he walked away. That wave meant more to Hank than 1,000 apologies. Then came the moment. A low, thunderous horn echoed across the marina. Conversation stopped. Champagne glasses froze mid-air, heads turned. A silhouette appeared through the fog. Gray, massive, imposing. "Is that a Navy ship?" someone whispered. The yacht owner laughed nervously. "What, they here to drag his wreck out of here?" But the ship didn't turn into the main channel. It turned toward Hank. As it neared the dock, its flags rose high. A voice rang out from a loudspeaker. "Requesting permission to honor retired Chief Petty Officer Hank Dalton. Stand by for ceremonial approach." Silence fell. The USS Solidarity, a Navy support ship, glided forward with precision. Every sailor on deck stood at attention, white uniforms glowing in the morning light. A patrol boat lowered and approached. 3 officers stepped off in dress whites. The lead, clearly a commander, walked straight to Hank. "Chief Petty Officer Dalton," he said loud enough for all to hear, "we're here on behalf of the 7th Fleet and the Secretary of the Navy. Your letter was received, your request honored, your story remembered." Hank stood slowly, saluting. His hand trembled, not from age, but from the weight of years, of sacrifice, of names long gone. The commander turned to the crowd. "This man," he said, gesturing to Hank, "kept sailors alive in typhoons. Ran critical communications when most of us weren't even born. In 1968, under enemy fire, he pulled 17 men from the sea." The yacht owner tried to interject, but a hush rippled through the crowd. The officer fixed his gaze on him. "You're concerned about your yacht, sir?" "Well, yeah, it's expensive. The Navy will cover it, and the cost of your disrespect." Applause broke out. From strangers, from staff, from those who, just moments ago, had mocked him. Another officer stepped forward, presenting a leather folder. "Chief Dalton," he said, "your service during Operation Silent Harbor has been reviewed. The mission has been declassified. Your actions acknowledged at the highest levels." Gasps rippled. No one had heard of Operation Silent Harbor, but they knew instinctively it mattered. Inside the folder was a certificate, a plaque, and authorization for a permanent slip at the marina, paid in full, forever, by the Navy Veterans Association. The ship's horn sounded again, long, deep, reverberating. Sailors saluted in unison, and Hank, back straight, eyes forward, returned it. Later that week, a new brass plaque was installed at Hank's slip. "Reserved for Chief Petty Officer Hank Dalton. Because some vessels carry more than weight, they carry history." The dock manager came in person to apologize. So did the yacht owner, red-faced and humbled, offering to pay for Hank's full boat restoration. Hank forgave them both, not because they deserved it, but because peace was more important than pride. He still sails each morning, still raises the flag, still salutes the water. And sometimes, when the fog rolls in, tourists gather near the marina, hoping to hear that Navy horn again. But Hank just smiles. "That ship already came," he says quietly. and it knew who I was when no one else did. Because respect isn't about recognition, it's about remembrance. Honor isn't in luxury, it's in sacrifice, not in what we have, but in what we gave. Subscribe to Ironheart Stories if you believe true respect is earned not by wealth, but by service.